Not all heroes start out as good people. More often than not, it takes a dark past for an individual to see the value of a path of light. If you enjoy my builds, then make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so that you never miss a single one. If you enjoy the video, then don't forget to leave a like and a comment, as it really helps out the channel a lot. He smashed his mace down onto the merchant's head. The shock that reverberated back to his arm let him know that his blow had broken the Khajiit's skull. They had taken the group completely by surprise, and their feeble attempt at resisting had been pitiful to watch. His men had taken down the first guard before he even drew his weapon, and the second had died moments later. He himself had killed the merchant in a single strike, and now there was only one member of the party left, a dark-furred Khajiit wearing a heavy suit of armour. Despite this fact, he was moving with incredible speed, and it appeared that two of his own men were already dead, with a third badly wounded. The Khajiit warrior wielded dual swords with incredible proficiency, his attacks a dance of death, which drew blood from anyone who came too close. Instead of attempting to fight the warrior, the leader of the bandits instead picked up an axe from one of the fallen guards and began hacking at the merchant's neck. Moments later, he threw the head of the merchant down at the feet of the final Khajiit, and gave the creature a choice: join them and share in the loot, or walk away. The dark-furred warrior took a moment to survey the situation, before accepting and sheathing his swords. After unlocking the chests and dividing up the haul, he asked the leader if he would have truly been able to walk away if he had wanted. The bandit leader looked up and said that of course he would have been able to. He always kept to the letter of his word. Obviously he would have then shot him in the back as he left, but that technically wouldn't have broken his promise. The bandits continued to attack caravans for several more years, and their leader would always provide them with all the loot they could want. The Khajiit had become a valuable member of the group, and was often seen as the right-hand man of a chief. The pair were both devastating warriors, and the other bandits looked up to them with a mix of fear and admiration. One day, the bandits came across a travelling monk and his retinue. Although the loot was unlikely to be as good as that of a caravan, the targets didn't seem particularly well armoured, so they could take them down with ease, and take whatever valuables they happened to have. The chief decided to personally lead the charge, running headfirst towards the monk's guards. He raised his mace in preparation to bludgeon the man to death, but instead felt a sharp pain in his chest. Somehow the man had drawn his sword and lunged forward in a single second, letting his sword pierce through the heavy armour of the chief. The bandit could feel the thin blade between his ribs, the tip causing a searing pain within his chest. As he heard the sounds of the rest of his men charging forward, his vision began to fade, and he fell to the ground. With a gasp he awoke. There was a strange light coursing over him, and kneeling by his side was the monk. He grabbed the man by the throat, and the light immediately stopped. With that, the pain too came back, and the chief clasped at his chest, letting go of the monk. The man to his side began calmly casting his spell once more, and the pain went away. He instead tried speaking to the monk after that, and learned of what had happened. Apparently the bandits had won the fight, but had suffered heavy losses. What the chief had first assumed were guards had in fact been holy knights, a mistake that had almost cost him his life. The monk had been spared and forced to heal the chief, and had been locked in the room with him for the past few days. The wound in his chest was still life-threatening, and the man couldn't move from his bed, forcing him to stay alone with the monk for some time. Although reluctant at first, the chief ends up speaking to the man about all manner of things, learning of the monk's life and of his religion too. The man's beliefs were fascinating, but to the chief they all began to make sense. The holy light was saving his life, and in such a situation it is not unusual for a man to turn to religion. By the time he is fully healed, the chief is a changed man. When he addresses his men for the first time, he delivers a sermon about the power of faith, and how it will deliver more riches than raiding ever will. Understandably, it is not long before the bandits turn on their former leader, the Khajiit seeming to lead the rebellion. Locked in the tower, the old chief and the monk are safe for a time, but with food running low, they have to leave. The chief puts on his armour and grabs his mace, but the monk pleads to him not to shed any blood. He promises that he's simply going out to talk to the men, and will not attack them. He steps outside and sees a single bandit standing to the side of a door. The man begins to draw his sword, but before the blade is unsheathed, the chief has his mace buried in the man's skull. He then works his way through the camp, trying to only fight against isolated bandits and take them down without being noticed, but eventually one of them has the chance to call out, causing the remaining bandits to become aware of his presence. At the front of them is the Khajiit. He tells the chief that he has only one chance to walk away, and if he doesn't accept, then they will cut him down. The chief knows he could handle the rest of the men, but against the third warrior, he wasn't so certain. Reluctantly accepting the offer, he heads back to his tower and tells the monk to follow him. The pair walk down the road, leaving the bandit outpost behind. After a minute or so of walking, the monk falls forward, a bolt protruding from his back. The chief hurries to the man's side, asking how he can save his life. The monk merely smiles and tells him that his time is now over. He asks the chief to head to the College of Winterhold in Skyrim. There he can learn the magical powers of restoration, and then go forth and spread faith as the monk once did. In his final dying breath, the monk bestows upon the former bandit the rank of Cleric, allowing him to start on his fated journey. The main skills of this build are Restoration, Enchanting, and Alteration. Restoration is the primary skill of this build. It will keep both us and our allies alive, as well as providing a couple of other bonuses. In addition to using healing spells to their full effectiveness, we will also want to use wards to improve our defensive capabilities. These are particularly helpful for dealing with mages and dragons. The combination of our equipment and the ward absorb perk means we will be able to keep casting wards for extended periods of time. In addition, you can use the recovery perks to improve your base Magicka regeneration. Enchanting is going to be our main crafting skill and will obviously help us significantly. Our main focus will be on reducing the cost of our restoration spells, but we will also want to do the same for the other schools of magic we use. In addition, we can use this skill to heavily increase our damage output, and also to enchant our followers' equipment, making them even more formidable than we are. The final main skill I have is Alteration, and I will admit that this one was added fairly accidentally. I originally only intended to level this skill in order to get the magic resistance perks, but I found myself also using flesh spells to help reach the armor cap, and even using the paralyze spell to incapacitate enemies. The additional skills of the build are Smithing, Heavy Armor, One-Handed, and Illusion. Smithing and Heavy Armor will obviously work together to help keep us alive, but Smithing will also help to keep our follower alive too. By improving our follower's armor to the best it can be, we help to reduce the amount of damage they will take. I found by the end of this build I could make my followers nearly immortal thanks to giving them improved and enchanted armor. The One-Handed skill is the only direct damage dealing skill we have, but it isn't a huge priority for us. We rely more on our allies for dealing damage, and prioritise ourselves as a healer more than anything else. We will need to be able to dish out some damage on occasion though, so we can't entirely overlook this skill. The final skill of the build is Illusion. I didn't invest a single perk into this skill tree, and I wouldn't advise doing so either. However, I did use the Courage and Rally spells to support my allies, so the skill will end up leveling over time. The main power I used while playtesting was the Battle Fury Shout. This will make our followers' attacks significantly faster, and due to the fact that we rely on them heavily, this will help ensure we are taking down our enemies as quickly as possible. In addition, use any shouts and powers that help out with general gameplay. I was playing as an Imperial with this build, so I would occasionally use the Voice of the Emperor power to calm groups of enemies, and I also used the Become Ethereal shout to survive fall damage, or for whenever I got overwhelmed. As a standing stone, I decided to go with the Lord Stone. It's nothing fancy, but the bonuses it gives us are undeniably useful, and I didn't feel that any other stone helped us more than this one. As a weapon for this build, I used a Nordic mace enchanted with shock damage and absorb health. You don't have to go for this if you don't want to, but you'll obviously want to use a powerful mace and improve and enchant it to the best of your abilities. In addition, make sure to give your follower a powerful weapon to use, and make sure to improve it at a grindstone and give it a suitable enchantment. If you want to keep your soul gem supply steady, then I'd recommend giving them a soul trap weapon and all of your empty soul gems. The armour for this build is steel plate armour, Nordic gauntlets, Nordic boots, the Torturer's hood, and a silver ring and necklace. As with the weapon, you will want all of these to be improved and enchanted, and as always, I will leave the details of my own equipment in the description of the video. I felt that this provided a really nice look to the character, and the armour pieces all work well together, despite being from different sets. The main faction for this build will be the College of Winterhold. The Cleric has travelled to Skyrim to join the college, and in practical terms it will help us with levelling our various magical skills as rapidly as possible. I'd personally recommend doing the Civil War questline. This doesn't tie in too much with the role-playing, but it's great for the skills of the build. Using Rally will help all of your soldiers to fight harder, and the Grand Healing spell not only restores your health, but that of your allies too. Spells such as Heal Other will also let you keep your soldiers alive, letting you walk over the enemy faction. Although not a faction, I would also recommend helping the various priests around Skyrim, to tie into the religious side of a character. When playing this build, you will want to use any morally good follower. I don't have a specific recommendation, so feel free to leave suggestions in the comments for whichever follower you feel would work best with the build. The Cleric is an incredibly strong character to play in certain situations, but he does have his weaknesses. You can tank a fair amount of damage, and thanks to your restoration skills you can fully heal yourself with ease. You also can support your follower very effectively by ensuring they stay alive. As long as they have the full attention of your enemies, you can focus entirely on keeping them in the fight, and, with a little patience, you're pretty much guaranteed to eventually win. Against very large groups of enemies or dragons, the build can struggle though. We don't have any real way to easily dispatch large groups, so instead we will have to fight smart against them, and keep on the move to avoid getting swarmed. Against dragons we can use wards to stop their breath from killing us, but we are still able to be taken down by them as soon as we let our guard down. Due to us not having a ranged form of damage, we have to fight them on the ground as well, reducing the time we have to kill them. I would personally advise drawing dragons towards large settlements of any form in order to distract their attention, be it cities or giant camps. If you can get them involved with someone else, you stand a much better chance of taking them down. Even in the best of situations though, it turns out dragons will still be jerks and decide to pick you up and then drop you from a ridiculous height. I hope that you all enjoyed this build, and if you did, don't forget to give it a like so that I know. In addition, consider sharing the video to help the channel grow, and subscribe if you're new around here. If you want another video to watch, then click on one of the links on screen now.